All right. I haven't done a presentation, I think, since college in the early 90s. Can everybody hear me okay? Or do you want the mic?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaker anyway.
I grew up, my superhero was Jacques Cousteau and Aquaman. Like we had a river behind our house. I was always on it or in it. And now I like to say I'm under it too. So nothing like it. And if I guess if you have any questions, just pop it up for me. All right, this is me in a nutshell. And once you stick your face under the surface of the water, it's a completely alien world down there. You just can't even imagine all the different things that we have. I have some pictures in this presentation that you're going to be like, what the hell is that? And one of those things is a ruby-lipped batfish. So just ask. A lot of pictures in here. I have been able to label because I follow some of these underwater photographers, so I've labeled them as such. Some are just generic pictures, and some towards the end are actually mine. Again, feel free to ask. All right, so police. We went to the Blue Hole. That was a graduation gift for graduating from with us. Third career in radiation oncology. She's like, what do you want to do? I have no idea. So we decided I've always wanted to be, a certified scuba diver. So we did that. It was in April. There's a couple, you go do some online courses, and then you do 4 pool courses during the weekend. And then you have to do what's called checkout dives. So you go to, around here, we go to a quarry. And then you do all these exercises to make sure you don't kill yourself or your buddy while you're down there. So it was April, the quarry is in Pennsylvania, the water was 46 degrees, and I will never touch that again without a wetsuit. Because one of the things about scuba diving is you learn all the ways to kill yourself. So one of the things is you can stroke out if you do something stupid. Now you have to do something really stupid. But I got on this water and I'm descending, I'm 5 feet, I'm at 10 feet. And I started getting this massive headache. I'm like, oh no, I'm having a stroke, right? Well, it was an ice cream headache because the water was so cold. But once we got through the checkout dives and actually started diving in the quarry to see there's a sunken plane, a sunken bus, there's bass. It was the coolest thing ever because you're breathing underwater. Yeah. So, in Belize, we went down to see the Great Blue Hole. Now, the Great Blue Hole is this big sinkhole, millions of years ago, sunk, filled in with water. So it's just huge diameter. I think it's 400 feet deep. And of course, as a diver, you can't go that deep. You only go about 135, 140 feet to make it out alive with just oxygen. Okay, so we're at 40 feet and we're swimming along. And you come to the hole and you literally fly over it and you sink. And it is the most magical experience you can imagine. You're literally flying, you are weightless. And that's the only place on earth you can feel that way that I've found. So there's, no phones down there. You can't talk down there unless you have a special earpiece, which I refuse to ever do. So you just hear the sound of your own bubbles. And this one of the myths to scuba diving is people think it's silent down there. And it is anything but. You've got your bubbles, you have fish eating coral, you have fish pooping sand. I mean, it's crackly and crunchy down there. It's amazing. And this you're a guest down there, right? You're in their world, which sometimes, people say, oh, shark infested waters. Well, no, you're infesting their living room, right? If you think about it. So that's 70% of the earth is water. So let's explore it. And again, some of the creatures down there, there's a creature who lives way deep. His head is see-through. Who can think of these things, right? So it's just a magical world. I love it. And I could literally talk about it for hours. Please don't let me do that tonight. All right, so what are some of the unique things about land versus underwater photography and some of the challenges. When you're in the water, you're in the water. So can somebody tell me what's going on with this picture? Can everybody see that?
Ooh, Sony camera.
What is that?
Mm,
It's a lens cap.
Lens cap.
Lens. Can you take? Can't take it apart underwater and take the lens cap off? No. So you have to test everything above water before you get in the water. Yes, I have flooded my camera. And that's a no pun intended sinking feeling. I had done a shark dive. You always test everything, right? There's a way to you dunk it in the water. There's always on board the boat. There's always a tank to dump your camera in to test it. And then usually most dives, you hop in the water and you wait for everybody to get in the water, and then you all go down at once. Well, this was a shark dive, and they wanted you to get in the water, go down immediately to a spot on the ground, on the bottom in the sand where they were going to bring a bait ball, right? So I get in the water, I test, it's all good. So this is a negative entry. I get in, I grab everything, I jump in, I sink 15 feet down, blank. Now it's a shark dive. I can't go back to the boat. I can't fix it. I can't put it up. So I just have to watch my camera flood. So that's not good. I have since found ways around that to help me prevent that, and we'll talk about that later. But that's one of the problems with underwater photography versus land.
Was your camera too?
Is what?
Was your camera too?
Camera, lens, and the electronics within the housing. Yeah, I was able to find some stuff used, and then I had to send the housing back to the company and have it fixed. It happens. This, as you can see, is a whole lot of gear to travel with. I have a roll along with all the camera gear. I have a backpack with more camera gear and some of my scuba gear. And then I have a roll on that weighs 49.5 pounds with the scuba gear and some clothes that I wear for the week. And on a dive trip, I just dive. I don't, do the club scenes and all that stuff. So it's literally board shorts, rash guard, and I have fun with that. So a lot of stuff to get into that. You guys could do this on land 365 days a year. I get, if I'm lucky, 10 days. So if I take 2 1-week vacations, it's 1 day of flying down, 1 day of flying back. And you cannot fly within 24 hours of your last dive. You risk getting the bends, and we'll talk about that a little later. So that's pretty much 5 days I get to dive. Now I might be able to do, if I'm land-based, I might get to do 3 dives a day, two in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, that's typical. And then you can pay to do an extra night dive. So that's 4 if I'm lucky, but that's an extra payment. If you're doing a live aboard, you can do as many as 5 dives a day, which is like, let's go. But that takes its toll on things like your ears.
And what's the reason for those restrictions?
It's called the bends. Nitrogen builds up in your body. So you have to have time to off gas that. Because if you go up and you're only pressurized to 10,000 feet, nitrogen can expand in your joints, brain, all that stuff that can cause bad things to happen. Okay, so I might get to do this 10 days a year. So I've got to perfect everything and then forget it, and then spend the first 2 days trying to get all that back, all that muscle memory. I spend a couple hours on the first night of my vacation, putting the rig together and lubing all the O-rings. This thing has so many O-rings that you have to keep lubricated so that everything can move properly underwater. You have to go with a buddy. Okay, you cannot dive alone. It's frowned upon. It's not a good idea because if something happens down there, you have a backup. Your buddies are always your backup. And in most cases, you're usually with a group. If you, this has happened to a friend of mine, if something falls off your rig or you drop it, that abyss can be thousands of feet down. It's gone. This usually requires a boat. There are some places around the world, Bonaire, where you can strap everything on your back and walk in from the shore, which is really nice. And there are corrosion issues. I had I had bought a new strobe which has a metal adaptive piece. And the piece I had was aluminum. And I spent a week diving with that. And what I should have done was taken it apart and cleaned it because it welded itself together chemically. So another trip to isolate to send it in to fix it. So you have corrosion issues with salt water. This guy's famous. This is Snooty. He's he's a shark down in Jupiter, Florida. He kind of comes around and makes his presence known and says hi to everybody. And this picture, underwater versus underwater. So you notice the orientation. You're here, your back's nice and straight, you're doing what you need to do. This, you should be in a horizontal position. Now, if you find something up here, you're kind of all contorted. So which is why I like wall dives, and a wall underwater is just a wall, it's a canyon, and everything grows vertically on it. So I like just to go along taking wall dives because then I'm in that vertical position. I have taken pictures upside down to get the shot. Because if there's coral growing and there's a fish right here and I can't get in there, I'll just kind of float upside down and take a shot of the fish. That's always fun. So it's always fun just kind of what kind of orientation can I get myself into, because you're weightless. You can do anything over there. All right, so this is the 24-hour rule for diving. It's called DCS, decompression sickness, where nitrogen builds up. As your feet underwater, it's pressure, and this nitrogen kind of comes out of your tissues. And then if you come to the surface too quickly, it doesn't have time to slowly dissipate. So it builds and builds and builds. It can build in your joints. It can. I don't want to scare the crap out of you, but it can do some really nasty things. But as long as you're smart about it, you can avoid this mess. One of the ways to avoid it is no diving within 24 hours of flying and coming up very slowly. You ascend no faster than your bubbles are actually ascending. So that's one easy way to keep that under control. So let's get into some of the physics. Water steals color. So, which is why you need strobes on your rig. So the first couple feet, you have ambient light, which is on a bright sunny day is amazing. A cloudy day, the reef isn't so much lit up. But red is the first color to disappear within 10 to 15 feet. And then as you slowly descend, you lose your oranges and yellows, and then 60 feet, you've lost all color except blue-green. That's all you're seeing down there. So this is maybe 30 feet, because you're seeing some red in there. But at 155 feet, you're not even seeing that so much. Okay, and then we'll get into more of the refraction and the closer a little later. But you're in the water, you've got mast on, right? And everything looks a little bigger, and you swear you're within 6 inches of something, right? And you're not your feet away. So it's kind of deceptive down there. You have to figure out where you are in space and where you think you are in space. Not my pictures, but there are some places, especially freshwater, where all you see is green murk, and you're like, okay, I wasn't expecting this. This is not a good dive until you get right up on something. So sometimes you're just not going to get great visibility. And then another part of this is backscatter. Saltwater has so many particles in it. And if your strobes are facing not the correct direction, or somebody has churned up the silt, or you've got something coming in that's churning, you're going to get what's called backscatter. So this is all backscatter, and that's something you don't want. All right, so next you have movement and buoyancy. So this part is going to be interactive. Okay, so I hope you're all up for this. It's not, we're gonna require too much, but I want to try to explain how an underwater photographer actually does this. Okay, so if you could all stand up. All right, so kind of crouch down, right? Now, when you're underwater, as you inhale, your lungs act like balloons. So inhale, you go up. Now everybody hold your camera out in front of you. Okay, as you exhale, that balloon shrinks, right? So down. Inhale, up, exhale, down. All right. So you're trying to focus on that fish right there, right? So, okay, so what do? You kind of hold your breath, which is a big no-no in scuba diving. But for a second, you can do it, right? Okay, but not only do we have our lungs acting as balloons, we have a little current. Okay, so inhale, current, exhale. Okay, so you get the point here, but wait, there's more. Because you're part of a group, right? And you're down here on the bottom, and this dive buddy who's wearing goggles and no peripheral vision and doesn't have a clue where he is in space has just swam over top of you, right? Okay, so he's not crashed into you. So now you've lost the fish, you've lost the nudibranch, okay? You're breathing, you're exhaling, you've got the current. Okay, are y'all with me here? Oh wait, there's more. Because that fish, if it's a fish, they know you're there and they never want their picture taken. So you gotta be patient. You gotta be patient, right? Because then he'll slowly turn back around. If it's a nudibranch, they're sea slugs. They just sit on the ground and wait for you. Okay, but wait, there's more. Remember I said you had to have a dive buddy? She's now bored because you've taken all this time. And the guy who crashed into you has now silted everything up. So now you have this huge backscatter mess. Now you have to wait for it to calm down. Okay. Everybody kind of get an idea of the craziness that is underwater, right? Okay. All right, but wait, there's more. Okay. While you're tired, you spent 15 minutes trying to get this tiny little fish to turn around and smile at you. You've now missed the great hammerhead that was swimming, that you've waited your entire life to see. Right? There's the great hammerhead behind you that you've completely missed. Okay, thank you. That's the end.
I wonder why you.
I'm thinking it makes a good case for taking out 500 snapshots and hoping one of them.
Yes, but there's more. Those will only fire once every couple seconds. Yeah, you can't put a burst on that.
Lots of pictures and hope one.
Lots of pictures and hope one works. That's underwater photography in a nutshell.
And I bet you always check your cards before you jump in the water to make sure you got plenty of for images, because there's nothing worse than a card full.
By hand, you can't do anything with it down there. Yeah, exactly.
You do video, because video sounds would be even harder to, because the motion would really mess that up.
Well, GoPros have really nailed that down. Yeah, so I don't take video. A friend of mine does with her GoPro. That has gotten a lot better. Palau is known for these huge currents. As a matter of fact, the currents are so bad, you reef hook in. So you reef hook into a piece of stone, and now you're flying like a flag out here. That's kind of a lot of fun. The cool thing about big currents is they bring in big critters. So out there where you're sitting, there will be 12 sharks just circling. Okay. Then they're the coolest thing ever to see down there. No. So they're just doing their thing, right? They're just kind of circling, waiting for some munchies. And then over here come the bumphead parrotfish. I call them the stormtroopers, right? They are 6 feet long by 3 feet wide, and they are on a mission, right? They're flying through. They come up, they land, and then they start munching on coral. And all this while you're flapping like a flag in breeze. So that's cool. The Caribbean has just a nice, gentle swell to it. So you could have just about anything down there.
But does your rig there, for lack of better term, does that have any kind of gyroscope in it to help with all this? I take that as a no.
Fantastic question. That's my $1 million. I should invent that. $1 million, I could retire.
There you go.
Do this for the rest of my life.
Never
No,
retire.
I am
Okay.
the Jack too. So there are some things you can do to stabilize yourself. One is a finger on a piece of rock. I try not to touch anything because I don't want to kill the beauty that is down there. So if you have one diver, you have a group of 20 divers. I'm usually with 20 divers in a group on the boat, right? I have 20 divers. 20 divers, there's 15 boats. You do the math, and everybody who's touching something is killing something. So I try not to touch anything at all. If I have to touch something, I don't think it's worth the shot. But there are some people who just grab on. That's my personal philosophy. So I just figure out how to work my breathing with my finning with the currents. That's a good question. Okay, and that kind of leads me into this. You're a diver or a snorkeler first and a photographer second, but that reef, your safety and the reef are the most important things down there. You don't want to crash into it, you don't want to break it. If you there's a disease, we've all heard of coral bleaching, right? Because of the heat, right? So what happens is coral has a symbiotic relationship with algae. The algae is what gives it its color, and they feed off of each other, right? So when it gets too hot, the coral expel that algae. So now the coral, it can't live the way it needs to live. When the temperatures cool down, that algae kind of grows back and the coral is healthy again. There's now, it's called stony coral disease or Skittle D that's going around the Caribbean. That is, you touch coral or you inflate your BCD and water gets into that and then it gets expelled somewhere else. Now you've just transferred this disease to another site, right? So and it's another reason for not touching the coral. You don't want to transfer this disease to something that's not infested yet. Stirring up the sand, you want to stay off the bottom because you know the guy's crashing into you, stirring everything up. That sand then falls on the coral, right? And now it can't breathe, it can't get its oxygen, it can't get the sunlight for the algae to photosynthesize and all that. Can't go below 110 on nitrox or 135 feet on oxygen. And those are hard stops. There are bad things that happen to you if you go below that. If you go below that, you go into something called decompression, where if you have to slowly ascend and literally spend, depending on how long you're down there, you can spend an hour at 45 feet, just letting the nitrogen off gas from your body.
How long does your tank last?
So that depends on how deep you go, okay? How much current is there? How much are you kicking? And how calm you are, right? So I can do 60, 80 feet. I can spend an hour on a tank. I did the Great Blue Hole at 135 feet. You have 8 minutes down there.
Wow.
8 minutes at 135 feet. That's it. Before the nitrogen starts building up too much that you can't off gas it to go into decompression. Okay. So you go down, you spend 8 minutes, you start coming back up. So I spent an hour on that tank, but 8 minutes at 135 feet.
Do you have to do all that calculation as you're going or
That's what this is for.
Okay.
So before this was invented, yeah, you kind of had to have, they're called dive tables. You had to have dive tables in your head to know how long you can stay at a certain depth. Now I have this thing that beeps at me and say, hey, you get up there.
Yeah, so back in the day, that's why the dive watches had the rotating bezel.
Yes, yeah, that's exactly it. Is there a question? No? Okay. All right, you are a part of a buddy system. Okay, that's your backup. In Palau, I had a problem with my BCD, my reg actually, and mechanic took it apart, put it back together, put it on the boat back for me. So I made the fatal mistake of not checking my oxygen tank completely, see that it was completely on. I checked it, it was completely, it was open, but not completely open. So I get down to 60 feet and all of a sudden I have no air, like nothing. So my dive buddy is right here. I grab her,
Mhm.
no air, and I grab her secondary. And then went back up. Come to find out, my tank wasn't completely open. So that's why you always have a dive buddy you're going through. My dive buddy tends to get bored if I spend 15 minutes trying to find fish, right?
Excuse me,
Yeah,
do you always have the same dive buddies or just different trips, different buddies?
so that can work many different ways. Susan is usually there. If I'm doing a liveaboard, I will do all 5 dives every day. And she's like, I'm done. I want to go drink some wine. So I will grab another dive buddy. So you can have the same one, you can have different ones. I highly recommend having somebody you know who is responsible.
I'm not drinking
Go
water.
swimming off.
Well, no, there is no drinking alcohol. If they catch you drinking alcohol, you're immediately sat down in the boat. Especially on the liveaboard, they keep an eye on that. They don't want anything funny going down there. Because they just want to keep everyone safe, including their own crew. All right, so the group, you're trying to take your picture and the group moves on. And if the visibility isn't that great, within 20 feet, you could lose the group. Now in the Caribbean, it's 80 to 100 feet. You're not going to lose the group. But you can have another group come in, right? Man, it's very crowded down there sometimes. So you could have another group come in, want to take a picture of that seahorse. And you're taking 15 minutes, like it's kind of rude. So figure it out quick. Unlike taking a picture of the eclipse where you have all of this room and all this time. All right, here. Okay, this is your life support system, and I brought in my gear over here to show everybody. We can take time afterwards to really dive into this if you want. You have the ECD, your buoyancy compensator device. This is what fills with air, or you can purge it to let air out to sink or rise, whatever you need to do. You have a mask. What do you think this is for?
Anything.
Fun to clip in.
Camera.
My camera. So it doesn't go floating off without me. I have a sausage which unravels, so if I ever get lost from my group and lost from the boat, I surface and this thing sticks 6 feet up in the air so that they can see me. Hey, I'm over here, come pick me up. You have regulator. Sorry, this is your mouthpiece. This is where you get your air. This tells me how much oxygen I have left in my tank, or nitrox, whatever I'm running. And this is my secondary. So if my buddy has run out of air unexpectedly for whatever reason, I give her the longer hose, and now I use this for myself. And now we grab a hold of each other and ascend. So every piece of dive equipment now has a primary and a secondary. It's called an octopus. Not sure why. Then of course you have your bottle. I do not own that bottle. I do not own a bottle. Wherever you go, they give you the tanks.
You mentioned about being weightlifts.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you feel the weight of all the equipment while you're down there?
No. As a matter of fact, in order for me to sink, I carry another 8 pounds. So I will have lead weights in my pockets. I have another 8 pounds to help me sink. So now the only thing you feel is the rig itself. You don't feel the weight.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the weight of the camera and that equipment.
So I'll get into this in a second, but that's what these are for. So you want that camera to be neutrally buoyant. You don't want it to sink you because you don't want it pulling you down. You also don't want it pulling you up. So that's another thing, right? As you're breathing, as the current is going, you don't want your camera doing anything. You want it neutrally buoyant. So yeah, this thing weighs 8 pounds maybe. But you don't feel, if I've got it properly balanced with these guys, there's no weight to it. Okay, you have your flippers. And then your stuff's gonna be upset you missed this, but I do not personally wear a wetsuit. I think I have enough insulation and I would have fish anyhow. But a lot of people wear 3 mil wetsuits. A friend of mine wears a 5 mil in the Caribbean. And the the temperature in the Caribbean usually ranges from 78 to 84 degrees. So to me, that's bathwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, rain, I love it when I'm on a boat and it starts to rain. Cause then you just get a little bit chilly and then you hop in, it's like, oh, it's so warm, it feels so good. And of course you have your dive computer, which I'm gonna take off because it's big and clunky. Any other questions about the gear?
Well, this is a pretty sophisticated gear. How did Jacques Cousteau manage the situation under
I know he invented the lung. He invented all of it, so it's incredible.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
I
So,
used to watch him on television.
yeah, I think so. Yep.
You don't seem old enough though. For so. How did you catch that so?
I think it's up to so.
I'm
But thank you.
like, when did you see that?
I'm over that look.
YouTube, okay.
All right, so now we get to the camera part. We have the housing, which has to withstand a whole lot of pressure. Water intrusion. You have a dome port. Okay, you have the tray, which is a separate item that gets bolted to the housing. You have your arms. I mean, handle. It's yellow, by the way, because apparently sharks like yellow. That's what I was told when one of my dad.
That's what they thought, sure. Sure, let's attract the sharks.
So as a diver, you want sharks.
Yeah.
We can talk about that all night if you want, but you have arms and balls. You have a video light. So I have a Canon SL3, kind of mid-range, right? If I hit 800 ISO, I'm grainy. It's not great. It doesn't focus well if I've got a critter in a black hole or it's a dark situation. So you have a video light. Okay. At night, if you need to light something up, critters don't like bright light. They don't like light. You wake them up. Parrotfish, you wake them up, they get really angry. And if you light up a fish and there's a predator around, you've just spotlighted dinner. Okay, so you have a red light for that. So you have a video light to help light up scenes so that your camera can focus or to see things at night. And then you have strobes. Okay, so these are all on falls. So I can, underwater, I can position these wherever I need to. Okay.
While you're breathing, while the currents.
While
you're bouncing.
Yeah, exactly.
Something else for your body to knock into as the light's out there.
Right.
So your camera's in a housing?
Yes, this is a housing right here, this gray
You
piece.
don't worry about reflections when you take the picture?
I've never had a reflection, not even off the import. Good question, but no.
Is the housing specifically made for the camera or?
Yes, because I need to be able to manipulate my camera settings. So all these buttons back here relate to all the buttons on my camera. So I need to know my camera because nothing is labeled, all the labels are hidden. So I need to know what these guys are doing, where do I find my ISO, where do I change my speed, IF stuff, all that stuff. So each housing is specific to the camera. And it's so specific that the housing is more than the camera. And in this case, twice as much. Yeah, ouch.
So how do you catch all these buckles?
Right?
You put it on automatic.
So that's a funny thing. You can't do automatic down there because
Oh,
no, it does not work. Automatic doesn't work down there. Yeah, it's full manual.
Oh, wow.
Full manual. Yeah. And this is the sync cord. So what this is inside the housing is electronics that are plugged into my camera hot shoe. So now whenever I fire, my strobes will fire through the same cord.
There you go.
Is that line view? When those flashes go? Because that's all that diffusion. From the water, doesn't
You
the,
tell me, what's going on? Hear it?
Yeah.
I hear you go.
That man.
Yes. And
Yeah.
We're charging it there, you know.
So your strobes are pointed out, right? And they're
Right.
pointed in such a way that you don't want them overlapping.
Right.
In front of the fish. And we'll talk about this more later.
But when it hits the water and there's,
There.
does that flash back to you?
No.
Of,
No, not at all. But we'll talk about that. We're getting to that.
okay.
Did you have to take a class in underwater photography?
Physics.
There are a lot of pieces. I had some very patient people on the boat who were professional photographers. And they kind of took me under their wing and they said, do this, set it at 8, said to forget it, had to do this, do that. And they even had to teach me. You're on a boat. What's a boat do?
Yeah, right.
So I had to learn how to set up the rig so that it doesn't fall over, right? So all these little nuances, I had professional photographers who were kind enough to take me under their wing 10 days a year, every year, to kind of teach me stuff.
Did you start with rented gear or did you just dive check the you got?
I started with this. It's good to 50 feet, right? And it has a teeny tiny little flash on it. But I was hooked, right? So then I dove a little into the deep end. And I started with this and one stroke. So it was just this. That's what I started with. And then it became 2 strokes.
Mm.
And then it became this monster.
So you kept learning your limitations with one.
Yes, yes.
So I was on a trip a few years ago, I don't dive, but there was some underwater photography by people who were filming from the side of the boat, filming whales in the Hudson Bay.
Okay.
And I know you can rent the housing, but all this other stuff that you have, can you rent the strobes and all that, or?
You know, I don't know. I've never looked into renting any of that. I did, well, I'm going to St. Lucia in April. And I'm thinking I have an R6. And the reason I haven't upgraded anything is I can't imagine flooding my R6. Okay, this SL3, I got it used for $300. Okay. That will hurt a lot less than flooding my R6. So I contacted the resort in St. Lucia and said, hey, do you have a housing and an R6 to rent? And they said no. So I imagine that's going to be a little difficult to come by because you kind of have to know what you're doing. And if you don't, you're going to ruin it. So I imagine there's not a whole lot of people out there who do rent. I would not rent. I would not lend this out. No offense.
Yeah, right, I wouldn't need it.
Yeah. Any other questions?
It's a lot going on with the photography part. So, how many hours should someone have underwater as far as, diving, just to learn the basics of that before you even attempt anything like this?
Excellent question. And the first thing any dive master will tell you, anybody out there will tell you, is you need to have hours under your belt to make sure your buoyancy is perfect. Because you don't want to go crashing into the reef. You don't want to take out another diver. So yeah, you need to have hours and hours under your belt. You should. Now there are people who don't. There are people who learn how to dive and jump in with the camera right away, and they don't have the buoyancy down. So you can imagine your buoyancy doing this as you're trying to take a picture. And then you're blowing through your air. Okay, if you haven't learned how to get all that nice and calm and settled, now you're going up in 15 minutes because you've blown through all your air. And now you really ticked off everybody in your dive group because you will have to come up as one. Yeah. Usually on these dive groups, you have one dive master for 10 to 20 of you. So if one person runs out of air, now he's hooked to the dive master because they're buddy breathing and you're all going back to the boat because you've blown through your air in 15 minutes. And I've seen it happen once. That's a good way to take off everybody. So yeah, get your buoyancy, get everything learned under control and learn how to handle accidents. Like somebody kicks your mask off. What do you do? That happens. But you learn in your classes how to deal with that. And then you practice as you're going through. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. But it's fun.
So how many years have you been doing this?
Since 2018. Well, but there was a year and a half, 2 year gap because of COVID.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because the Palau trip I went on last April was supposed to happen in 2020. So yeah, things kind of got shifted backwards. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Can you tell with the packing?
You're using the charge of one of the strobes, I think.
Excuse me?
One of the strobes is on. I'm the red light. Yeah.
Okay, and then these guys are your neutral buoyancy compensated. And I have a couple more at home for these. Take a full noodle. Instead of paying a whole lot of money for real ones, this is a neutral buoyancy compensator. Okay, instead of paying $100 for those, you just get a full noodle and strap it on. All right, lenses. I generally use a Canon 60mm and a Tokina fisheye down there. So macro, little nudibranchs. Some of the nudibranchs can be the size of a grain of rice. I have no idea how anybody finds them, let alone sees them, let alone photographs them. There's a little nudie called a sheep's head, and it is so darn cute, but it's the size of a grain of rice, and I'll never even be able to see it, let alone photograph it. So if you ever see one of them, you know the guy who was behind the camera was really young. Because these eyes, I know you don't believe I watched Jacques Cousteau, but I did. These eyes don't see all that. And then the fisheye is great. Everybody uses a fisheye down there, especially for close. It's called close focus wide angle, where you focus close up, but then you get this entire beautiful background of corals or boat or the boat, your dive boat, whatever.
Do you pre-decide what you're looking for?
So you have to pre-decide before you jump in what you want to shoot.
Can't switch lenses down.
Yeah, switch lenses down there. No. So the day before you'll say, hey, what are we diving tomorrow? Is it going to be a wreck? Is it going to be this and then that? And usually they'll be able to tell you unless the weather changes. And then it's changed. And now you're going to a dive site that's been for macros and you've got a wide angle lens on now. But it happens. But yeah, you can't change anything down there. You gotta pre-decide.
You ever bring two bodies?
Did I what?
You ever bring two camera rigs?
One
for each side.
I'll get to why not in a minute. No. No. Well, first of all, the expense. Second of all, I have 3 bags. So I've got this guy that I'm rolling. I've got this guy which weighs darn near 50 pounds. And then I have my roller bag that weighs 49.5 pounds. So I can't, big no to the second set of gear. As much as I would like to. You paid for cheaper excess baggage. So I have not yet. Because that goes on my back, it goes overhead, and then the roller bag goes in hard. At 49.5 pounds. I got down to science. I don't want to pay those.
I guess it does help if you don't wear glasses, right? Because you do put some goggles on.
Yeah, you have goggles. So I have multifocal contacts. There's a little, so within your mask, you can get, I should have brought Susan has them. You get little inserts down the bottom that act like bifocals, right? So she has those. Or you can actually get prescription masks.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's another way. I recommend multiple. That's
Can you dive with those lenses?
that's a big myth. Everybody's like, oh, you can't dive with them. You get.
There's plenty of saline there.
What was that?
No matter. There's plenty of saline down there.
There's plenty of sailing down there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I've there.
I didn't know.
Yeah, it's watching. All right, so getting back to your question about the two houses and the two cabinets. So this, if I were to get a little rig for this guy, right? A little tray, some arms, and a strobe. This guy isn't too much, but you're paying out the wazoo for your video lights or your strobes. And then if I wanted to go deeper than 50 feet, I need a housing, right? So this is where the money comes in, a housing and a port and the lights. So this rig alone, $1,200 to $1,700. But that you are very, very limited to this setup because you can't change out a lens. It is what it is in there, and you can't go full manual with it either. Okay, and it's only waterproof to 50 feet. If you want to go deeper than that, great blue hole, 135 feet, then you need a housing and port.
I actually have one of those Olympuses that I've used for my rare snorkeling
The TG6
in the Caribbean or in Bahamas.
Yeah.
And I have a problem of a lot of glare on the screen when I'm underwater. It's hard to see what I'm shooting. I don't know if that's come up with you.
No, not with my Canon. It has.
No, I mean with the Olympus.
I don't shoot with that. So this is a little Nikon with the doesn't even have the housing. I just no glare. Okay, next up, this is my rig, which is more mid-level, so it's a Canon SL3. The reason my dive master got me, I told him I was interested in this. He's like, you want this because it's inexpensive and it's small, compact, lightweight. The output work, right? I don't think he expected that to come out of it, but your housing, and this is why it's so important to have a housing because per square inch, you have down below, you have 48 pounds of pressure for every square inch on that. That's trying to infiltrate water into that system. Even at 15 feet, it infiltrated very quickly. Okay?
There's a blank space.
Right.
I just to say there's a blank space where it says this rig would cost approximately.
But diver, never found photography than diver. Did you do photography before you tried that?
I did photography.
Okay.
I've always been interested in photography, but never as a real camera. I've always had a little compact, but I've always been in somebody's face, landscape,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So I guess technically that came first. And then diving, because I couldn't afford to learn how to dive until 2018. It's not, I don't think there are any hobbies that are cheap. This one's definitely not cheap. Okay, so to answer your question, between that so this is new. I bought used. We have that price. The housing $1,700 for that gray piece, and then you're adding the handles, the ball arms, strobes, the sink cord, etc. And then, so this only includes one lens and one dome port, right? So if I want to use my fisheye, I'm using this guy, which came with the camera. If I want to switch out to a macro, I need black. I need this guy. So again, another expense.
You don't change the lenses underwater, do you? No, of course not.
You have to decide before you go. And I found this out the hard way. Why is it always the hard way? Got on the boat that morning. We were told we were going to a wreck. So I had my fisheye and my big dome port on. Told we were going to a wreck. Get in the boat, and of course the weather changed. The wind changed direction, so now we can't go to the wreck. We have to go somewhere else. Like, right, I want to get, it would have been good for macro life, right? Like, do I have time? Yes. So I went, ran out to my room, grabbed my other lens, port, ran back, got on the boat, and then as we're motoring out, started to change everything. Well, I had done everything, closed it up, sealed it, vacuum sealed it in an air conditioned room.
Oh, no.
You know where I'm going with this? So now I'm on a boat. It's 85 degrees with 95% humidity, and I break the vacuum seal, pull the camera out, change the lens, and now everything is fogged up. Okay. Along with this, now I've got fog. So I had to figure out how to clean it out, wait for the fog to finally dissipate, and then put it all back together, and then seal it, and then vacuum seal it. So, yes, it's can't change up lenses underwater, and you really can't change it on a boat either. Any questions with this setup? So this is mid-level, okay?
Is that your picture?
Excuse me?
Is this your picture?
That is not my picture, no. I wish I were that good. I'm trying to be that good. All right, so this is the R5. Some of these rigs the professional that took me under his wing, he had a $10,000 rig.
Yeah.
They're just insane. And I can't imagine flooding it or breaking it. I saw him drop it on a deck once. Like my heart stopped. And I didn't even hit it, right? He picks it up and it was fine, thank goodness, but I can't imagine going that route. All right, so essential is, you know, the strobes. You have your strobe, which is a flash, and then you have your video light, which helps light up things that are too dark in the space that you can't, your camera just can't focus in on, or at least mine can't. Okay, then you have your dome ports, you have your flat dome port for your 60mm macro, and then you have your big dome port. If you want to do, so this is a regular fisheye or wide angle. If you want to do what's called an over-under shot or a split, where you see half underwater and half over water, that dome port is this big, which is why I don't have one. I would love to do the split shot like that, but I can't pick that. I can't pick that in my one plane.
One of these days.
One of these days, yeah.
Gotta wear it like a hat.
Hmm.
You know? Susan's gonna be so mad at you. All right, so golden rule. Get close, and if you think you're close enough, get closer. Because there's all sorts of stuff between you and that critter, right? So one of my first couple times out there, you know, get close. I'm like, I'm real close, right? So I was taking a picture of a critter, right? I'm taking a picture, and I'm thinking I'm right here. Right? So the professional photographer took a picture of me taking a picture and went on boat afterwards. He's like, how close do you think you were? I'm like, I was this close, man. I was in there, right? And he showed me the picture. I was here. How did that happen? So refraction, underwater, all that sort of fun stuff. But if you're taking a picture of a nudie that's this big, this is where you need to be. Because there's all sorts of stuff between it and you in that water.
You're looking at the back screen of the township.
Yeah, so yes. So I personally can't see that little viewfinder, so I have it on my LCD screen, which goes through the battery a little faster, but I can see it.
So can't you see that you are far away?
Excuse me?
Looking at the viewfinder, you cannot see that you are really not close enough.
So I'm in the viewfinder, so you gotta kind of, okay, yeah, I gotta get closer.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then you want to fill that frame. It's more difficult than you think. All right, so you got to manage your color down there. There's a reason I chose white fins. Right?
Okay.
That's my white balance. Right. Or you can carry a little dye slate to write things to your buddy. And strobes are the only way to get color back down there. There's no other way to do it. All right, so backscatter, that is the bane of every underwater photographer's business. And there are ways to set up your strobes so that you eliminate it. So you wanna, have as little light as possible shining in front of that critter versus the more light, the more backscatter you're gonna get, which is gonna look crappy. So if you're not anywhere close to your subject, you're turning your lights off altogether. And you're hoping that your camera and your ISO are good enough to catch it. Okay. All right, so this is a little more in detail about how you can set up your strobes to get whatever you're aiming for, whether you want shadows over here or over there, or you have a big subject, little subject, etc. I just like this guy's naming convention, Princess Leia. I just kind of thought he was cool. All right, so I'm sure I don't need to get into detail about this with photographers, right? That's pretty much what stands to reason on lands is the same underwater. It's all about your shutter speed, your aperture, and your ISO. If you're at 20 feet on a bright sunny day, you can get away with 100. I might have to go to 200 on that. If I go to 800, it's grainy. It's not worth it. But that's the exposure triangle is pretty much the same down there. If you want to get fancy and want to show a little bit of blur, you slow it down. A technical detail is if your camera is hooked up to strobes, the sync is 1 to 250. I can't go any faster than 1 to 250 because of sync with the strobes. That's as fast as the shutter speed as I can go.
Is that a function of the quality of your rig? If you had a much more expensive camera, would you be able to go faster?
If I had more expensive strobes,
Yeah.
I think I can get 1 to 400 with some of the strobes out there.
Mhm.
But you're talking thousands
Okay.
for each one.
Mm.
Yeah, so if you put that, you're gonna pay for it. But they are now making strobes where you go 1 to 400. Yeah, so it's not the camera so much, the strobe.
They your photos?
Not mine.
Okay.
This is Simon Lorenz. He leads actual underwater photography workshops, and someday I hope to do that. But I'm gonna start a GoFundMe page.
I'd love to learn.
All right, so exposure triangle, the same thing with the aperture, an f10. So if you got a mantis shrimp and his eyes are in focus, if you see those eyes are incredible. I highly suggest YouTubing a mantis shrimp. Plus, their claws, if they strike you, can be as fast and powerful as a bullet. It can break your finger. They're incredible. Like, who imagines this stuff down there, right? So at 20, then you have the whole egg case and the mantis shrimp in there. So this has nothing to do. I don't know why he's called a shrimp, but he is. All right, and then you have your ISO. Again, my grain is pretty significant at 800. But it's a factor of how much sunlight, how deep you are, whether you're peering up under a coral reef or not.
Do you do much post-processing to try to remove grains?
Hold that thought, please.
Okay.
Do you shoot auto ISO or?
No, never. Nothing is on auto.
Yeah.
Everything is 100% manual. Yeah. It just doesn't understand what's going on down there.
Yeah.
But you only get 10 minutes. I mean, there's all this.
Yes.
I won't technicalities.
Right, which is why Susan is always bored. She's waiting on me to take the shot. But you
Teacher
kind of
photography.
you kind of learn. Okay, if I'm gonna take small critters on this. So I'm gonna take this stone and this, and I'm gonna have my settings are generally around this head. So you know generalities and you can work from there. All right, light, of course, is the essence of everything down there. It kind of speaks for itself. And again, this is Simon Lorenz, who's just absolutely incredible. I love the whale shark up there. So, you can take the silhouette up and film down. You usually never want to take shooting down on a subject underwater because it usually looks boring, but this guy manages to get away with it. Always. It's incredible. So you can set mood and detail in your strobes, all that, and this light strobes are everything down there. That's pretty much 100% it. So you can set for ambient light, which is all this light filtering in from the sun. So this particular shot is called a close focus wide angle, where you're focusing here, and this is where your strobes are landing. But then you also have to maximize it for the sunlight coming in ambiently, right? So you set your camera for its ambient light, and then you set your strobes to catch what's right here. So that's a whole nother mind-boggling thing.
Did you play with your strobes above water before you went down to try to figure all this out?
You're playing with them constantly.
No, I mean, but even before your first time down, did you play with, but I found that and maybe it's just me and a mental block. It seems that my flash is more complicated than my camera.
Yes, yes. Where you set those strobes, yes, very complicated.
But did you play with it all above ground, above water before you
Yeah,
went in?
you do that, but you can only do that
No, I
to a
understand.
certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a little bit of that, but it's more underwater. Yeah, you know, that's not. So then you have your subject there lit by the flash. And we're running out of time. I'm only halfway through. I could literally talk about this forever. All right, so again, setting your camera up for ambient light, or if you want no ambient light, there's different settings to that. So I love this shot. Again, Simon Lorenz. Okay, so you have your macro. So this pygmy seahorse, this big. They're so cute, aren't they? Yeah. And then you have your wide angle for your Rex. Again, no strobes on that, because your strobe will only get you 3 feet. It'll only light 3 feet. It won't go farther than that. Again, you can get maybe another foot or two if you go with that $4,000 strobe. But yeah. And then, I gotta have the sharp pick.
So do you have to adjust your technique depending on what fish you're, in other words, if you're doing a shark, are there additional restrictions on you, like distance and?
Yeah.
Don't keep any trouble.
You're not gonna get up.
So this guy looks like a sand tiger. Okay, sand tigers during the day are asleep. So they hunt at night. So half their brain during the day is asleep. The other half is keeping it alive. So I've done this in North Carolina, the Rex in North Carolina. I have literally just swim away. So that is, I would not do that to a bull shark. Okay, but that would be a restriction. Did I answer your question? Okay, yeah. But
Know your sharks.
know your shark. Yes, know your sharks, because a Caribbean reef shark is like a Labrador. They will come check you out. They'll swim in between you. They're very curious. They just want to know what you are, what you're doing. Hey, how you doing? And then they'll go swim off. Like it's amazing seeing a shark. That's when you don't see a shark, you're just a little bit disappointed. They're amazing. All right, so close focus, wide angle. You're focusing close, but letting ambient light get the wide back in the background. This is the over/under shot I was telling you about. This guy's dome port was probably this big. Okay, so you use your strobes underwater to catch what's underwater. It's tentacles of a Portuguese man of war, and then use ambient light for the above. So you got to tell a story, just like above water, right? You're trying to tell a story. So you want a subject, you want to catch the behavior, the habitat, mating, human interaction, etc. That doesn't change down there. You want a pop factor or a wow factor. The teeth of the lizardfish, they just sit. They are so cool down there. They'll just sit unless you do something epically stupid, like try to smack it. They'll just sit and pose for you. Okay. Normally on land we're at eye level, right? We even have a tripod for that, but sometimes it's a little difficult to do that down there, which is why I sometimes actually stand upside down to get shots
How
and
do you
then
do that with all that gear?
rotate it. You're waiting.
If he's sitting on the ground, if he's sitting on the bottom, you're trying to flip that. With all that gear is over top, right?
No, I mean, you're just,
Okay.
you're weightless. That's really cool. I do it just because I can. It's not typically, if you don't see any photographers down there doing that. But I just think it's fun. All right, Kate Jonker, I love her work, and this is what I aspire to someday. But you always want the eyes in focus, if not one, both. I mean, just the image is so impactful if you get the eyes. And they've got to be sharp. Now, how do you get something sharp and focused, pinpointed? Right, so how she does that, I don't know. This is, usually what I get, which is the bum shot. So there's a trick, believe it or not, there's a trick to catching fish swimming, right? So, right? You can side by side, just don't look at them. I swear they know your eyeballs. I swear they can see your eyeballs. So you have to trick them. Bang. That's how to avoid the bum shot. You always want some, distance in front so it looks like the fish has room to swim. That's just a compositional technique. You want to tell a story. So this is a male yellowhead jawfish. They're sand dwellers, so they pop up, and the male carries the eggs. And you can tell when one is carrying eggs because they'll have two black stripes, long stripes under their chin. So underwater you can't communicate, right? So if your dive master wants to tell you that there's a male jawfish with eggs under there because you've asked him to find you one, he'll go because you can see along that line. Males or females who don't have eggs, that line will be very short. And then this is a behavior. This is a shrimp inside of, it might be a goby. I'm not sure what this guy actually is, but that shrimp is cleaning him. This fish has pulled up to a cleaning station. They'll pull up, they'll hover, they'll open their mouths or their gills, and they'll let these small fish or shrimp pick parasites and dead skin off of them. Oh. Yeah. So this is a behavior.
It's gonna be everywhere.
All right, things not to do. Okay, gotta have your buoyancy. You gotta learn that first. Okay, you get that nail on the head. Don't touch, don't move an animal, don't chase it. Oftentimes, if a turtle or a ray leaves the area, they'll often circle back around. And this happened to us in Palau. The entire group was sitting watching a ray go through, and he went up and over. And I kind of followed him at a distance, and the rest of the group went over here. And the ray swung around and passed right in front of me. I got the most incredible shots because he came back. So as long as they're not chased and they don't feel threatened, they'll usually come back and then you can get your shot without a whole lot of people in the way. Plus, you don't ever want to stress them out, right? These are such cool creations. All right, so my photography. This was released 2018. I'm embarrassed to show you this, and there's only two for a reason. Okay, overhead, not in focus, blue-green. I had that little compact camera with this tiny little flash that didn't do anything. Okay. Where I am currently, this is an anemone fish in Palau. I'm kind of proud of this one. I can't say that about too many of my shots, but this one I really like.
You found Nemo.
Nemo.
Yeah.
That's not Nemo.
That's not Nemo?
That is not a clownfish. That's an anemone fish.
Anemone.
Yes. So a
Fake it.
clownfish looks a lot different than that guy.
Oh,
But yeah, it's kind of cool.
fake Nemo.
Hawksbill turtle. And this kind of tried to get a little artsy fartsy, which is way out of my comfort zone. So I'm over a vase sponge and turn the camera real quick. So I was trying to get this in focus and this out of focus. It was a shot. This is actually the picture I'm most proud of because I didn't think I'd ever see one in my lifetime. This is a juvenile trunk fish. That's the adult. your dog is about this big and he's kind of triangular shaped. How big do you think he is?
Look at your.
He's the size of a dice. And he was tucked up in. So I'm like, Susan, right? So Susan, I didn't have my video light on at the time, and it would have been really complicated to get him. So like, Susan, so she saw him and lit him up, and I captured him. So it's kind of a, you know,
Question real quick, with your closeness. Are you able to have enough resolution that when you get back, that you can zoom it, bring it in, enlarge it?
crop it.
crop
Yeah.
it?
So this is cropped a little bit. Yes. Yeah. If I, again, it's a function of your camera, right? Because this is 10 megapixels, 8. It's not a whole lot of megapixels in there. So if I had an R5 45 megapixels, yeah, I could crop the hell out of that.
But you still had, even for that little bit, you still had to get really close. Right there.
Yep, because there's stuff in that water, and you don't want that to come through. Any other questions? So this is, yeah, I haven't actually put that picture out there because I don't want anybody to take it. All right, where I'd like to get to. Some of the pictures, the Kate Jonker with the eyes you saw. Alex Mustard, he's an amazing photographer, the over under, the Rex. This is called blackwater photography. This is jumping in the water at night and hanging out over the abyss. So all the juveniles, all the infants, all the teeny tiny little critters come up from the abyss at night to feed or mate or do whatever they do. In Roatan last year, I tried to take a picture of a squid. I wasn't over the abyss. I was in 40 feet of water, but he was still up in the blackness, and I couldn't get my camera to focus. Again, GoFundMe page for better rig. But I still have yet to figure out how they do the blackwater photography because literally you're in inky black water. Do you want to jump into inky black water? No, Susan won't. Okay, she won't ever go on a night dive because it's literally black, and then you see the tip of the shark. Same person does this. All right, please. I can't figure out the whole post-processing thing. I use Canon DPP, the free program when I go on these vacations. I don't even have, I'm using On1, an old version of On1. But I just can't get it. So I actually signed up for a photography course who uses Lightroom, and he's gonna hopefully teach me. But I know a few little things about editing. So if you really have a technical question about editing, I can't answer it. I can answer general things, but you do have to post-process. I post-process all of my pictures because as you see, if the angle isn't right on the strobe, I get backscatter, you take all that little backscatter out of there. I usually end up cropping a little bit because I just haven't gotten close enough, right? So there's all these little details. But you talk to any underwater photographer out there, they post-process every image they have. You saw with the white balance, that little eyedropper thing. DPP has a little eyedropper, and if you have it white balanced underwater, which some can take time, and if you inhale and you go up 10 feet, that's a little different than exhaling and then go down 10 feet. Although if you're swinging 10 feet on the inhale, exhale, you've got other issues to worry.
So you have to photograph your white card.
Right. So if you're doing 100-foot dive and you see something at 60 feet, that's going to be a different white card, different white balance than something at 30 feet. So I usually, for the sake of not driving Susan absolutely crazy, I usually don't white balance down there. I'll do it in post. Dehazing. I use a lot of dehaze down there too because it can just, you're shooting through water. Texture, clarity, all that. I do not have topaz. On1 has an AI built into it. Sometimes it just completely blurs out the underwater stuff. So it's kind of a hit or miss kind of thing, whether I use AI or not. I don't have to do this. If my image looks like this, I throw it out, because that's too much individual painstaking detail for me to do manually. Always shoot raw, of course you guys know that, vibrance and cropping. So I mean, you can see, you know, this is the shot, they say get it right the first time in the camera, right? And sometimes you just can't do it down there. So this is what you can come up with.
But the colors are so different, so what did you see when you looked at those? Did you see the orange, brown?
You see this, you see that down there until your strobes go off. This looks like he didn't use any strobes with it. This was probably not very deep. Okay, but then you light it up with strobes and then you post-process it.
But when you post-process, you kind of get the adventure of being on the dive again, as you see what
Yes.
you really see.
You remember what you saw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay. What kind of fish is this?
Uh,
I'll give you a
Anemone.
hint. He's sitting in an anemone.
Oh, okay. Clownfish. Oh, okay. You got me.
All right, and of course, modern AI is taking over the biz. We don't see where this is going.
You got 2 subscriptions, one to Adobe and one to Topaz.
Yeah. All right, and then my man again. You only have to sink beneath the surface and you're free. You're just weightless. Okay. Other questions? Yeah. Good. And I got you out of here 2 minutes early.
Okay.
Questions?
Did you dive in any around South Pacific or up in Indonesia?
Indonesia is at the top of my bucket list. Raja Ampat.
Yeah.
Komodo. Those Red Sea, top of my bucket list. I just got back I spent 2.5 weeks in Palau, which was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I have a member of my film has been diving since the 50s, and he's still diving in his 80s. But he's been all over. He did a presentation for us
Cool.
too.
Cool. Is he around here?
Yeah, he lives up in Hampstead.
Okay.
But I have
Is his name Michael?
No, his name is Dick Hall.
So you don't use wetsuits, but we went to the Atlantis and did a little snorkeling.
You need a wetsuit.
And it's cold there.
Yes.
When you're swimming with the penguins, you need a wetsuit.
Yes, yeah, you definitely do. I haven't. I went to North Carolina to do some wreck diving last summer, and I had to rent a wetsuit. It was 70 degrees. It was a little cold.
When we were there, a lot of people were diving or snorkeling with GoPros.
Yes.
It was pretty impressive. My husband had this little underwater level he was using. And learned right away that he could turn the flash on. So you turn the flash on, all you got was the back scattering and
Yeah.
it was useless.
We're reef all I got is this is where a fish was. No.
Yeah. What was supposed to be?
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, it was a great experience. Unless I hadn't been Great Barrier Reef, but I got nothing. Other than my experience.
Great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else? You want to ask me about sharks?
I see.
No, because I don't listen to.
Ask me about my first experience with sharks.
And I'm seeing that wear a wetsuit, make the shark chew.
All right, it was the Blue Hole, and we're motoring out, and we got 2 snorkelers with us. They're going to go snorkeling around, but they had been divers for years. And then there's me and Susan, who this was literally our 4th dive, right? So I'm really nervous. I have never seen Jaws, but I used to wake up as a teenager screaming out of my bed because I was being attacked by a shark. Okay, terrified of sharks, right? Fascinated, but terrified. So on the way out, we're discussing my terrification of sharks. And, the other day they saw a great hammerhead in there, which is top of my bucket list to see. So they're like, that sharks don't like bubbles. They don't go near a diver. They don't go near divers, right? Unless you're doing something epically stupid like spearfishing and you've got bait down there. Then they attack because that's what
Yeah,
they're
it's in
supposed to
distress,
do.
that's what they do.
That's what they're supposed to do, right? So snorkel, we get in, snorkel are going around, we go to 40 feet. Okay, we go over into the abyss and we're swimming, we're just sinking down. And there's the dive master Mario, and there's my wife Susan, and there's me, and we're going and we're going. 4 sharks, right? Banging on my tank. Like sharks, like
Hanging on your-
shit. My tank, I'm banging on anything I can figure out to make noise. Right? I'm breathing through my regulator going crazy because shit, there's 4 sharks right here. Right? Yeah, and then, oh, bubbles. They don't like bubbles. 135 feet. Blown, okay. How many minutes do I have at 135 feet?
Like 8.
8 minutes. Like, shit. Like, I can't do this either. And then they just swim along.
Hmm.
And then they were gone. I'm like, I wasn't on the menu. They were just checking me out. Kind of like I like to check them out. And then from there on out, I was disappointed whenever I didn't see a shark. So we're not on the menu. They don't know what we are. Plus, we're big. And if they have to expend a lot of energy, then it's not worth it.
They're scavengers.
They're scavengers, right? Yeah. Snorkelers get chewed on once because what are they doing up top? They're kicking, they're flailing, they're making a whole lot of noise. They're acting like an injured fish or a sick fish. And that's what they're supposed to do, clean it up. So never act like a sick or injured fish, and you'll be fine. You had a question?
I was gonna say my best underwater photography is at the aquarium through glass.
There you go. Don't worry about that backscatter. No backscatter.
So for sharks, what was the scariest moment?
Running out of air at 60 feet because of my own stupidity. Yeah. Because as I'm descending, it's getting more and more difficult. What is going on? And then I hit 60 feet, like, grab Susan, grab it up there. Then we got up and figured it wasn't turned all the way on. Dumped back in, and by that point we had lost the whole group. So we went back to the boat. So, but that was my own stupidity for not checking my valve plug. I should have. But I really haven't had.
The group went on without you though.
Yeah, they didn't even know I was having a problem. Which is why you always have the designated buddy. Yeah. So we just went back to the boat, hung out. They got to see mating groupers. No pictures.
How much time have you spent learning about, how much time do you spend, knowing what you're gonna see? When you get, hopefully what you're gonna hopefully see
So
when you get to where you're going.
a lot of time, because when you learn a fish's behavior, like if you learn that a mantis shrimp, if you tap right in front of it, he'll come out and check you out. Or if you go pull up to a cleaning station where these cleaner fish and shrimp are, and you take your rag out and open your mouth, they'll come in and clean your teeth.
Whoa.
The jawfish, the males carry them and they hide in a hole, kind of surrounded by other little jawfish. So if you can learn behaviors and territories and things like that, you have a much better shot, no pun intended, of capturing the shot you want, of seeing the critter or seeing the behavior. So yeah, you can. So you learn that parrotfish or a grouper, when they pull up to this cleaning station, they'll kind of swim in and bang. And I saw one do that. Like, I know that behavior. And I stopped and I watched for a second. He opened his mouth and pulled out his gills, and everything came right to clean him. So it's a much better chance of seeing critters and activities and behaviors and things like that if you know. So yeah, I've spent some time learning it and talking to people, talking to divers who have 5,000 dives under their belts. So yeah. Plus I just think it's fascinating to learn about all this stuff.